Hello everyone, and welcome back to Star Wars Base Delta Zero. Today I'm going to be counting down my picks for the top 5 Starfighters in the Star Wars galaxy. And this one's a little bit tricky because I could easily make this into several different lists. The top 5 bombers, the top 5 interceptors, top 5 TIE fighters. I could even make an entire list on the top 5 variants of the X-Wing. And who knows, maybe one day I'll do just that. But for now I'm going to lump them all together in one enormous category and choose what I think my top 5 Starfighters would be. Keep in mind that this is just my personal opinion. Mileage may vary, and you may have a vastly different opinion. So jumping right into it, at number 5 is the Rebel Alliance ASF-01 B-Wing Heavy Starfighter. This thing straddles the line between a starfighter and a gunship, and it's really hard to get a reading on the weapon systems aboard the B-Wing because they were modular and could be swapped out at any time. Possibilities included laser cannons, ion cannons, repeating auto blasters, proton torpedo launchers, and laser-guided bombs. This heavy starfighter was specifically designed to bring down much larger vessels, including the Imperial Star Destroyer. And that was no empty promise, as a squadron of B-Wings were more than capable of severely damaging and destroying heavy cruisers. Unfortunately, the trade-off was in speed and maneuverability, and it never really achieved the hybrid starfighter and heavy bomber role that it was meant for, as it would always be susceptible to faster and more maneuverable craft. At number 4, I've chosen the Eta-2 Actis Interceptor, and this starfighter could easily have made it higher if not for being so stripped down. With no shields or hyperdrive, this interceptor was basically a death trap for anyone who wasn't a Jedi. However, in the hands of a Jedi, this fighter performed phenomenally. With a pilot who could push it to its absolute limits and who possessed the razor-sharp reflexes of a Jedi, the incredible speeds and tiny frames made it almost impossible to hit. And though it commonly lacked ordnance of any kind, it made up for it with a pair of secondary ion cannons to support its twin primary laser cannon, offering a degree of flexibility and versatility when engaging the enemy. And staying with interceptors for a moment, I've chosen the RZ-1 A-Wing for number 3. This was basically a beefier version of the previous Starfighter, which offered better survivability for non-force sensitive pilots. Still, the A-Wing required the best of the best ace pilots to avoid tearing the ship apart. But under the guidance of such a pilot, even the blisteringly fast TIE Interceptor couldn't outrun the A-Wing. And that's all the more impressive when you consider that the A-Wing possessed both shields and a hyperdrive that the Interceptor lacked. And with twin rotating laser cannons and twin concussion missile launchers, the A-Wing was a perfect mix of speed, protection, and firepower. And for the number 2 spot, I've chosen the classic and iconic T-65B X-Wing. And yes, I know this means that 3 out of 4 of the ships on this list so far have been Rebel wing-type starfighters. But I can't help it, the Rebels had good ships. And the X-Wing was the best of those ships. With 4 medium laser cannons and twin capital ship-busting proton torpedo launchers, all loaded onto a quick and maneuverable frame, the X-Wing was the biggest nightmare for the Galactic Empire, and its Death Stars in particular. And through iteration after iteration of the X-Wing, it only got better. Better weapon systems, better shields, stealth technology, and higher speeds are just some of the notable advancements the X-Wing made over time. And I'm sure the Empire was really kicking itself for going with the vastly inferior TIE Fighter over the X-Wing. And before we get to the number 1 Starfighter, I'd like to give an honorable mention to the TIE Phantom, and this was an amazing starfighter. It was one of the few TIE Fighter models equipped with both shielding and a hyperdrive, and though it lacked any kind of ordnance, it made up for it with 5 laser cannons. In fact, the only reason that the TIE Phantom is an honorable mention instead of my number 2 Starfighter is that its cost was very high and the Stygian crystals that powered its cloaking field were excessively rare, and without them, the Phantom is just a mediocre fighter when compared to the other ships on this list. And finally, for number 1, there's really only one fighter it could be, the TIE Defender. The starfighter designed by Grand Admiral Thrawn himself and the most deadly TIE fighter of its era. Not only was the TIE Defender equipped with both shields and a hyperdrive, it still managed to be faster than the A-Wing. And with 4 laser cannons and 2 ion cannons, plus twin multi-purpose warhead launchers capable of fielding either concussion missiles or proton torpedoes, not to mention a tractor beam, it was more heavily armed than the X-Wing, and more versatile than the Eta-2. The TIE Defender could literally put any other starfighter of its era, and in my personal opinion any era, to shame. I have no doubt that if the Empire had opted to put all of that Death Star money into the TIE Defender program, they could have easily squashed the rebellion. Now, I'm sure that many people will disagree with this list, and I'm curious to know what your top 5 picks for the best Starfighter would be. I look forward to seeing your list in the comments below. And that's all I have for you today. If you're looking forward to seeing more Star Wars content, like, comment, and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again on Star Wars Base Delta Zero.